All right, so I am going to record this. Originally, I was going to do all of these in one, but um, that would just take me. It's just too much for one total session. Basically, what today is about is understanding kind of how to get what you want when you want, and knowing what to say and making it count every single time. Now, I want to start this off by saying not everybody, right? Like, so when you start to utilize this stuff, it's a it's a way of how you communicate, and taking these words and using them and putting them into your everyday life is how you will continuously move the needle forward, but also be better at communicating this way. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. I hope you guys are fired up. Save your questions to the end. I'll do a Q&A, so take notes. There's a lot of things in here that you're going to want to have notes on to kind of keep the ball moving forward. So why all of this, right? So basically what it comes down to is too often the decision of a customer either choosing you or somebody like you really depends on your ability to know exactly what you need to say, when you need to say it, and how to make it stick, right? Well, I'm going to explain what I call power words, and these power words with different tactical insights and powerful tools, so that way I can empower driven sales professionals, coaches, entrepreneurs, so they can continue to get more of what they really want. With over 15 years of experience in leadership development and sales mastery, the worst time to think about what you're going to say is in the moment that you are going to say it. So these words that I'm going to give you today, these sets of words and how to utilize them, is going to prepare you the same way that it's prepared me in almost every known reality, and will provide you guys with a fair advantage in almost every single conversation that you'll have moving forward. One of the things that I am extremely certain about is, because you're here right now, that tells me that you're open-minded about change and serious about your personal success. So throughout the years of me studying people, human relationships, different business interactions, I've always been extremely amazed by how some people achieve dramatically different results, right? And others seem to have the same exact ingredients, right? But they don't achieve the same results. And knowing that you can give one person the same thing and the other person the same thing, but they end up with different results, has always piqued my curiosity, right? So in business, just like most of you have, where you all have similar products and resources, but yet some people struggle to find customers and others cannot stop finding more success. Despite your difference in attitude and in your endeavors, the successful people I have learned, they have one thing in common. They know exactly what to say, exactly how to say it, and they know exactly how to make it count. Now, this realization has had me fascinated with the difference between the subtle changes of what words can do to the outcome of a whole conversation. And this has kind of fueled me over the last several years and into studying psychology and human triggers that causes different shifts in our human belief system, right? And it kind of moves the ball forward. So let me explain what these power words are, right? These words are basically a set of words that talk straight to your subconscious brain. The subconscious brain is a powerful tool in everybody's decision making, because it is programmed through our conditioning to make decisions without overanalyzing. Now, you guys will hear words that I've used, and maybe I have actually said them to you. Now, like I was saying in the beginning, I want you to think about those words, and when they stand out, be like that's a red, that should be a flag saying, holy cow, because these should become a part of your everyday vocabulary, not just for your business. Okay, it should be in everything that you do. Now, your the way that these powerful words in your subconscious works, it works like a computer, right? Like your subconscious, it only has a yes and a no output, and it can never land on a maybe, right? So it's incredible. It's incredibly strong. It's decisive, and things move quick in your subconscious. You don't even realize it. Using words that talk straight to that part of the brain that is free from maybes and responds on reflex gives you guys literally the fair advantage on a conversation, and can result in you getting exactly what you want more often. Now, a lot of people, you hear them, you know, oh, I'm good at this, or I'm good at this, and I'm good at this. And I've talked to thousands of these types of people over the years, but why do they continuously go up, down, up, down? I'm gonna explain that to you as we keep diving in. So you might be thinking to yourself, how does, you know, my subconscious serve me personally, right? Like, how does it even work? Well, here's a couple of examples, right? When you're controlling your breathing when you sleep, that's all your subconscious. You don't have to think about it. It just naturally does it for you. Assisting your routine on a familiar drive home, right? You don't think about it. Your subconscious is doing all of those things for you. Or how you allow your attention to be immediately drawn to anything that resembles your name when you hear it, right? See, we rely on our subconscious brain daily to get us through everything that happens without having to go through the processes, without having to compute and take care of every single decision all by ourselves. So I want you to know there's an advantage to all of this if you can understand it, and that's what I'm going to provide for you today. These words are words that I have tried, tested, and improved and to deliver results when applied correctly. These are aimed to increase your business success, but equally interchangeable into all of the areas of your life. So to help you to become more influential and have more impact with all that you do, my advice is to have a notebook and a pen with you when you listen to all of these today. So as I'm going through these, I want you to look to create your own examples as you hear each power word, and to make the decision to try these as soon as possible while getting more comfortable and confident each single time that you do. Now, everything I share may sound very simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I'm excited to hear about all of the results, all of the different results that you're about to have with all of these words, right? These powerful words, phrases, lines. You can call them whatever you want. I like to call them power words just because it is what it is, and it's where you can either make it or break it. So share with us inside of our community, share with us about how you're succeeding with these things, the successes you've had, and start applying them immediately when you're done with this. So let's dive right into it. I know that was kind of a long intro, but like I said, I've never done a training where I've actually written out all of the things that I've ever utilized inside of a sales presentation, because every sales presentation for me is never the same, because the person is never the same that I'm dealing with. Their struggles are never the same. Their personality is different. The way they think is different. Some might be more logical, some might be more emotional. And this took me a while to kind of put together, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys as much as I possibly could to utilize, so that way you guys can have as much success as you can possibly handle. Let me add this person in here real quick. Boom. All right. So the first power words is going to be, I'm not sure if it's for you, but one of the most common reasons I hear from people of why they fail to introduce their idea, their product, their service to others is basically the fact that they're fearful of the rejection that they're going to receive, or they think they're going to receive, right? It was for this exact reason, based on all of you guys here, that this is the best place to start this whole thing. Given a set of powerful words you can use to introduce something to just about anybody at just about any point in time that is completely rejection free, these words are, I'm not sure if it is for you, but, okay? Let's look at how simple this structure works. Opening a statement with the power words, I'm not sure if it's for you, causes the listener's subconscious brain to hear there is no pressure here, right? By suggesting that they may not be interested in they may not be interested. You naturally increase the intrigue, right? Without a form of pressure. They wonder what it is. And this spike in curiosity will start to hook them. What more is it fires this internal driver inside of our brain, right? That tells them that a decision needs to be made. This soft approach ensures that the decision feels unpressured and internal. What does that mean? Unpressured and internal. Unpressured means that it's not they have the ability to make the decision for themselves, not you telling them. And internal means it's coming from them, not from you, right? The real power is delivered in the final 3-letter word of the sequence. And that's a word that most of the time you guys should avoid in almost every single conversation that you had. And that word is but. Imagine receiving a comment from your boss or an employer in the past, if you don't have one currently, that started with the words, you're incredibly valuable to the team. Everything you do is amazing, but something needs to change. What would be the only part you remember? I'm guessing it's the part where you would focus the most on is everything after the word but. Let me add this person in here real quick. Boom. Is everything after the word but. The word but negates everything that was said prior. So when you say to somebody, I'm not sure if it is for you, but what the little voice inside every one of your customers or your prospects' head hears is, you might want to look at this. Let me give you some examples to kind of help you with your guys' daily routine, right? I'm not sure if it's for you, but you wouldn't happen to know if somebody is interested in, and this is where you would insert the result of your product or your service, right, that you provide. Losing weight, more confidence, maybe some extra money to make ends meet, even more time freedom. Your opportunity here is to insert what your customer gets as a result of your product or your service. Another would be, I'm not sure if this is for you, but the option is available for this month only, and I'd hate for you to miss out. Right? So this rejection-free approach creates this simple outcome. One of two things happens in this process. Your customer is going to ask you for more information because they are personally interested, right? Or in the very, very, very worst case scenario, they say they will give it some thought. They'll think about it, right? The second set of words are open-minded. Sorry. The second set of words are open-minded. Now, if you ask a whole group of 3,000 people whether they have considered themselves open-minded, I'm pretty sure that 2,900 of them would say yes. Just about everybody in the world considers themselves as open-minded, and it's pretty easy to understand why. Think of the alternative being considered, right? So the alternative to open-minded is obviously closed-minded. Who wants to be closed-minded? Probably nobody you ever communicate with. This perception of choice is considered almost guaranteed to steer the person towards your idea, okay? Knowing that people like to see themselves as being open-minded, you easily give yourself a fair advantage within your conversation. Now, when you introduce your product, your service, your idea to your prospect, to your customers, or even to your friends, or maybe somebody on your team, right? Like you have this cool thing you want to introduce, whatever, using the words, how open-minded are you, and following up that sentence with a scenario that you want them to opt into. Does that make sense? Now, this allows you to naturally attract people towards the very thing that you're looking for support with. Now, the preface shifts you from having a 50-50 odds of them agreeing with you to almost a 90-10 in your favor. Everybody wants to be open-minded. Here's some different examples for you that I put out here. How open-minded would you be to trying this as an alternative? Okay. Would you be open-minded about giving this a chance? How open-minded are you about increasing your monthly income? Would you be open-minded about seeing if we could work together? Each of these options makes it very difficult for the other person to reject your idea, and at least makes them feel obligated to explore the possibility, right? So it seems like you're giving them a choice when really you're heavily weighting the only option that you are actually giving them. Okay, let me add this person in. Seth's internet is garbage. All right, so put very simply, how open-minded are you at least trying it when introducing a new idea to start with? How open-minded are you? This will naturally attract them to the very thing you would like them to support. Everybody wants to be open-minded. What do you know is going to be our next set of words. Now, this is powerful in a lot of different situations, especially in different conversations that you have. What do you know? Now, how often do you find your guys' self in some sort of conversation that quickly becomes more like a debate because you are speaking with somebody who thinks they know best? And perhaps that person even, wants to lecture you on their opinions. To be able to influence others, you must be aware of how to control your conversation. One of the ways of regaining control is to move the other person from a place of certainty into a place of doubt. Okay? Typically, people try to create this position of uncertainty through directly challenging the other person's opinion and maybe even entering into some sort of an argument. I can assure you that that is not the best alternative in a scenario. I'm sure you've had moments when you've been frustrated, by somebody's inability to understand what you're saying and potentially even flustered that you cannot overcome their perceptions of that. This can happen on a regular basis when you're trying to introduce, a product, an idea, or a concept, or a new service, right? And the I know best mentality of many people can be very, very, very difficult to overcome. And I'm very certain you want people to stop arguing with you. So this situation could result in you regularly backing down or even just walking away, right? I know I have done this in the past where if I feel like, hey, there's no way I'm getting through, or there's no way that they're really understanding what I'm trying to say, in the past I've even either walked away or just kind of shut it down and would just basically played the agree card. You know what I mean? Yep, yep, yep. Cool. So, um, for opinions have merit with from other people, but it should really be founded on some sort of data, some knowledge, right? They need to be able to kind of back it up. The best way to overcome that type of conflict is not to necessarily win the argument. Instead, you must question how the knowledge that the person has was really founded, right? The goal is to basically turn the situation to that their opinion was based on not real evidence, right? Like if somebody was like, how many packages have you sold? I would show them my freaking thing and it would see, 2,000, 10,000, 2,000, like all these different things, right? Like, so that would be based off of, X. I could use that as a reference, right? So basically trying to get them to basically saying that their evidence isn't sufficient, while obtaining the ability for them to save face in the conversation. This is crucial, right? Like you don't want to be like, oh, you're an ass, or oh, you're completely dead wrong. You want to give them the opportunity to save face when this stuff happens. It is in the power of the actual preface. What do you know about it that softly threatens their knowledge base and forces them to share the reference on what their argument is based on? Often this results in basically them realizing their strong opinion was not necessarily as strong as they thought, or not founded based off of relevant evidence, right? And you can do this in like I said, by asking a simple question of, what do you know about it? And I'm going to give you guys some examples here so that way you can understand kind of where this is coming from. And this is good, especially when you're trying to get somebody to understand maybe your side, or they're trying to tell you. We've all been in a scenario where we're talking about either a program or a service, and the other person thinks that they know best about every single thing. This is a great way for you to turn the conversation to your favor and take control. Okay. Seth needs new internet. All right, so here are some examples for you guys. What do you know about us, our business, and the way that we do things differently, right? What do you know about how everything has changed since then? You can insert the date of, whether you changed your management, maybe you changed the style of coaching you're doing, maybe you had some updates to your coaching, maybe you're introducing a new product or a service to the thing. You can basically say, what do you know about how everything has changed since we offered this new product with one-on-one specific services that is customizable specifically to you? What do you know about it, right? Like, this gets them to think in their head, oh, I really don't know anything about it, right? What do you know about how things really work here? What do you know about the benefits? And then this is where you can insert your product. Either digital courses, coaching programs, types of services, even personal finance. These questions allow the other person to realize that their opinion is maybe not correct, and they can quickly become far more receptive to the change. The worst that can happen is that you learned the actual basis of their argument and then can position your point to contrast it, right? Use these specific words to challenge others with confidence and to avoid arguments that always ends with a loser, right? I know it's always, sometimes we can get competitive and we're like, oh, I won that. Well, you don't necessarily want that, because regardless of who the loser is, you're unlikely to leave with your desired result, right? Either everybody wins or everybody loses in those types of scenarios. So the next set of words, think about these words. I have said these words a lot in a lot of different scenarios with people over the last several years. Especially, I've said some of these that we're going to go through with almost every single person on this call right now. So the next set of words is, how would you feel if? This is powerful. Now, there's one word that has gotten so much use in the past several years, and it's motivation. Okay. But when I ask people what it means, very, 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 very rarely does anyone actually. How many of you guys, what is it? It's Sunday night at 7:28. You guys, that's a call from the VP of Gold's Gym out in LA. He's a good buddy of mine. He's a good friend. So back to motivation. Every time I ask people what motivation means, very, very rarely does anyone actually understand what the word is and what it means. So let me give you a simple breakdown of what this word actually is, okay? The word motive is another word for reason. And ation derives from action. And if somebody is going to take action, they're going to do something or move. So its simple explanation is motivation is a reason to move or a reason to do. That is the actual breakdown of motivation. Now ask yourself this. If the reason were big enough, could you get just about anybody to do just about anything? If you want people to do things that typically they don't want to do, first you need to find an honest reason that is big enough. I want you guys to understand this. You have to find an honest reason that is big enough. Understanding what reasons are big enough means you have to understand how people are motivated. People are motivated by one of two things, either avoiding a loss or requiring a potential gain. In other words, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, avoiding pain, or gaining pleasure. They either want to go towards the light, the good thing that they're looking for, or they want to get away from the thing that could potentially hurt them. Okay. Now, the world tells us that people will work far harder to avoid a potential loss. I want you guys to understand this. The world tells us that people will work far harder to avoid a potential loss. What that means is people will do more to avoid pain than they will to actually gain pleasure. So I want you to understand, when you're having that conversation with people, a lot of people think that the first thing is getting them to see the light or getting them to vision, like the thing. That's a piece, but that is not the thing that is going to drive the majority of people that you communicate with. Because if I was to ask you right now, if you had your hand on your stove, on the burner, which one would you move towards? Gaining more money or moving your hand away from the pain? Chances are you would move your hand away from the pain. Pain will always people will always work harder to move away from the pain than they will to achieve potential gains. A little side note here is, this is the reason why you see so many people that are okay just getting by in so many areas of their life. It's because it's not painful, and because it seems too much to gain, in which then they apply the gain to the pain, and then they don't do anything at all. Does that make sense? Right? Like people, and this is, you've heard me say this a different way in the past, and that way was, don't look at it as, or don't focus on the work, because most people focus on it as work and then apply work to something that they are not happy with or something that is of pain to them. If they focus on that, that will move them away from actually doing the things that are going to get them to what they ultimately want. So be careful when it comes to that. Greater than that, the more contrast that you can apply between where somebody does not want to be and where they hope to be, you're more likely to get people to actually move. Okay. So understanding the truth of motivation coupled with this next point gives you a real context for the next set of power words. The second thing you must consider is whether people base their decisions on emotion or logic. And the true answer to that is basically, the fact answer to that is it's both, right? It's not one or the other, it is both. And it is just that a decision is always made for a motive reasons first. I want you guys to understand that. A decision is always made for a motive reasons first. Something has to feel right before it ever makes sense. Now, I'm sure you've stepped away from a conversation confused in the past of why this person did not follow your dang advice, and have wondered to yourself, I don't know why they just don't do it. It just makes sense for them to just do it, right? And if you're trying to win the argument based on your advice making sense, you are in fact calling out to the wrong set of reasons. So people make decisions based on what feels right first. If you can make it feel right, the rest is going to be easy. Understanding those two complex theories is going to be the foundation for these next set of power words that I'm about to say to you guys. It's all brought together in a preface to a question by introducing a future scenario with the words, how would you feel if? How would you feel if? Here, you allow the other person to basically time travel to the moment and imagine the emotions that would be triggered at that point. How would you feel if allows them then to start going into this space to be able to picture this. Choosing moments that trigger both positive and negative emotions will allow you then to create a truth worth changing for. Like, I want to read that again because you guys want to understand this. Choosing moments that trigger both a positive and a negative emotion will allow you to create a truth that is worth changing for. Now, it will also prepare others to expect your ideas on how to help them achieve successes or avoid losses. What you then create is basically a conditional future-facing scenario that they can see for themselves. How many times have you heard me say, paint a picture? People do things for one of two reasons: to avoid pain and to gain pleasure, right? Like all of these things. This is what I'm talking about right here. You want to move you want to move them to thinking with positive and negative emotions and get them to see something that feels good for them, because when you can create that truth where it feels good for them, then and only then are they going to be willing to change for that. It's going to be worth it to them, right? And they need to be able to see it for themselves. So here's some examples of how you can actually use these words in your everyday life. How would you feel if the decision led to your promotion? How would you feel if this decision led to the best shape of your life? How would you feel if your competition passed you? How would you feel if you turned this around? Or another one, how would you feel if you lost everything? What about this one? How would you feel if this time next year you were debt-free, living in your dream home and planning your next vacation? This specific question I have used in a conversation with every single person on this call at some point. These are one of those things. Here's the thing. If you know what to say, what phrases to utilize, and when to say them, and make them a part of your regular vocabulary, you will consistently then start to have success. But if you don't allow these things to become a part of your regular vocabulary, that's when you then decide to get stuck on words. But also being prepared in scenarios and situations with this stuff in your pocket. So that's why the more you use them, the more you condition yourself to continuously move the ball forward with those conversations. Practice makes perfect, right? I don't agree with that. Practice makes progress, because I don't believe anybody's perfect. So, creating a conditional future scenario using the words, how would you feel if? What that means is a conditional future. You're conditioning them to think about a future scenario utilizing these words. And it gets people excited about their future and gives them a reason to move either towards the good news or away from the bad news, right? Do you want to be unhealthy? Do you not want to be unhealthy? Do your kids want to see you like this? Do you want to have more money? Do you not want to have more money? So on and so forth. The next word, set of power words, is just imagine. I've also utilized this word in a conversation with every single person on this call. So, did you know that every decision that every human makes is made at least twice? The decision is first made in your mind, hypothetically, before it is ever made in reality. Now, for all of you meditation lovers and people that take time for yourself and your personal well-being, congratulations, because that's a huge part of a lot of things that we do in our life. And this will explain part of why that is. In fact, for a decision to come true, you must first at least imagine yourself doing it. Have you ever been in a situation in which you have said, or even maybe mouth the situation to a friend or somebody else, I just couldn't see myself doing that, right? It's a literal thing. If you cannot see yourself doing something, the chances of you doing it are actually slim to none. A side note, this is also why I have all of the people in all of the programs at every level, no matter how much they make, how much they have made, or how smart they are or seem to be. I want them to write things down and draw outlines and steps to where they are supposed to go. And this is the reason, because you actually, when you write it down, it forces you to automatically see that written out and where you were going. And it keeps it a lot more organized on top of that. People make decisions based off of the images that they see in their minds. You've heard me say, paint the picture. Side note, I think about your content, right? What image are your potential prospects gathering from your content? So if you can place pictures in people's minds, then you can use the results of those images to influence their decisions. Creating pictures in other people's minds is done by telling stories. What is one of the first things anybody and everybody, no matter what level they are at, have to do before they work with us, or when they start working with us first? They have to understand how to tell a story. And the reason is because psychologically, based off of human needs, human triggers, stories are the thing that relates most to most people. Remember, as a child, many of us, many of like the good stories that you heard, whether it was in school or if you had maybe a nanny or something, all of those stories generally started with "once upon a time," right? When we heard those words, we knew it was literally time to sit back and enjoy the moment. And then we started to embrace our own imagination, right? Well, if somebody used those words to paint a world for us to jump into, it would be pretty tough right now to engage adults with those words, right? Now, you need other powerful words like these that create the same picturesque outcome in somebody's mind, right? So when you hear the words, just imagine, the subconscious brain literally kicks this switch and it opens up this image viewer, right? And it cannot help but picture the very scenario that you are creating. In the previous part, you learned about away motivation and towards motivation. You can apply those same exact rules to how you finish off. Just imagine scenarios. To help drive people to do the things that you would actually like them to do. So, sand on the beach, what do you feel? Those types of things. You're painting these pictures, right? You're getting them to imagine, just imagine, right? You've heard me say that with you guys. Just imagine if your business was doing this. Just imagine if you had X amount of this. Just imagine, you know, all of these things are a context of that. So here are some examples for you guys that you guys can utilize in your everyday life. Just imagine how things will be in 6 months' time once you've implemented this. Just imagine what your boss would say if you missed this opportunity. Just imagine the looks on your kids' faces when they see you achieve this. Just imagine the impact this can have. Allowing the power attached to other people's creative mind to build your case for you will always save you guessing and create a move that's vivid in reality than anything you could possibly describe, right? So let them do all the hard work for you. So many times we put ourselves in the situation of trying to say all of this extra stuff that doesn't need to be said, when all you have to do is utilize these types of specific power words to get them to create it for you. Now, imagine saying to a team member, a prospect, a potential client, or even a family member or something, just imagine the smiles on the kids' faces when you tell them you have booked a trip to Disneyland, Or just imagine stepping up on stage and picking up that big incentive check or maybe a leadership award. Just imagine pulling into the driveway in your brand new car. As you make those statements, they will see the picture of that very thing happening now that they have seen the thing. Now that they have seen the thing, chances are in their belief, right? They picture themselves actually pulling up in a car. It starts to reference all of these images that we've all seen, right? Like if you think about it, oh, I want to have a big house in this nice car and blah, blah, blah. The things that are going to flow to your mind are going to be actual images that you have already previously seen. This is what they're going to do when this is what's going to pop in their mind when they hear you say those words. So their belief goes through the roof when achieving this, when they can actually picture themselves doing this. I mean, just imagine the difference this is going to make for you and your business. The next power words, when would be a good time? Okay, so this simple set of power words helps us overcome one of the biggest challenges that all of you guys face when trying to get people to take a serious look at your product or your service. Now, one of the biggest reasons that your ideas fail to either get heard is that others tell you they just do not have the time to consider them. Side note, I want you guys to think about booking appointments here, okay? How many times I just don't have time. I'm not, I just don't have time this week. I don't have time next week. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time, right? But using the preface, when would be a good time to, you prompt the other person to subconsciously assume that there will be a good time, right? And that no is not an option, okay? The assumption acknowledges that there will be a time where this can definitely fit into their schedule. And it is just a case of basically confirming, right? Confirming a specific, clarity is power, a specific time and date. It is this kind of direct question that prevents people from telling you they don't have the time to be able to get on a call, or they're busy as a result. This helps you avoid one of the biggest objections that people face in our industry or in sales in general, is I don't have the time. A couple of good examples of this would be, when would be a good time for you to take a proper look at this? When would be a good time to get started? When would be a good time to speak next, right? In all of these scenarios, please be certain that when you gain a reply, right, you work to schedule a precise next point of contact in order to keep control of the conversation in your hands. That's a huge factor that I see a lot of people that they don't really dial down, is they don't get specific on the times. Now, when you do get around to following up or speaking again with the agreed time, please, 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 please do not ask them what they thought about what you had asked them to look at. And the reason is this makes it very easy for them to talk bad news or to bring up concerns. So instead, I want you to swap the question with, so what do you like about it? Side note, I have used this exact thing to gain an extra $10,000 to a $40,000 deal. This exact thing. Now, I've helped people get raises at their job with this exact thing, and even people get jobs through the interview process with this exact thing. An example for the interview would be, so what was it about my resume that made you decide to go with me? What was it about my resume that you liked that made you decide to schedule an interview? This initially starts them off as giving you praise before you even go one word into the interview. It's freaking awesome. So it allows them to basically list all the good reasons instead. That's the benefit of this. The next set of power words is, I'm guessing you haven't got around to it, or I'm guessing you haven't got around to. While sticking to a theme with the whole following up process here with people, I thought I'd share these words that you can use in a scenario that you are fearful of contacting the other person because you think they have not done the thing that you've asked them to do or that you wanted them to do. You know that times where you have sent over some details, or they have said they needed to consult with somebody else. No, think about their spouse, right? I have to ask my spouse. I have to talk to my partner, and now you need to make contact to take it to the next step. When you are fearful that somebody has not done something, instead of asking how that thing went, you want to start the conversation differently with allowing them to be able to save face. And how you do that, but you don't want them to save face. You want them to save face, but you also want to say it in a way that they're not going to create an excuse, right? So the reasons that they can't use an excuse is because you have been bold enough to start the conversation in a way that suggests they're about to use the very excuse that they've already probably prepared for this call or for this conversation by prefacing with the question, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to. Imagine you're making a phone call to somebody who said they needed to talk or consult with either their partner or their spouse in making a final decision to work with you. If you ask, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to speaking with your partner yet, it now becomes impossible for them to actually use that excuse. They respond in one of two ways. Either they feel proud that they have done what they have promised, right? Or they are embarrassed that they haven't and make a new promise to right the fact, okay? Other examples could be, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to looking over the documents yet. Or I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to setting a date yet. Or I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to making a decision yet. By using the words, you are fearful, they may give you, by using the words you are fearful, they may give you back in the other direction. You create the scenario that completely disarms them. If you say to somebody, I'm guessing you haven't gotten around to making your decision on this yet, and they say, no, you're right, we're still thinking about it, you can open up the negotiation, okay? That's a benefit. If instead they say, no, we have and we've made the decision, right here again, you can say, great, when are we ready to get started, right? Positive, not, oh, well, what is your decision? Great, when are we ready to get started? You see, because when you ask, what is your decision, you're automatically sounding not confident, because there should be no other decision from your standpoint. It should always be, when are we getting started, right? So because most people are people of their word, and they'll feel pretty bad when they're called out for it, okay? Some people, I should say, like I said, most, not all. There are some people that don't give two craps, but most people will feel bad when they're called out for it. So the next set of words is simple swaps. These are a couple different ways, and this is something that you will do regularly when communicating in sales, when communicating in prospecting, when communicating and moving the conversation to an appointment. This technique, I'm going to provide two pieces, okay? In this one part, the psychological science kind of behind the technique, which includes turning an open question into a closed question, and then this results in you guaranteed receiving an outcome or an answer, right, in return. This basically came to my mind when I was trying to prevent a major problem, when I've seen so many damn people make mistakes towards the end of a sales presentation. At the end of sales presentation, the question many people will reach for is, do you have any questions? And this happens in the fitness space a lot. I've worked in so many damn gyms. I mean, this happens all over the place. It's just ridiculous, and it's just so annoying. Do you have any questions? Asking this question creates the subconscious suggestions that the other person should have a question, okay? And if they don't, it actually makes them feel peculiar and even a little freaking stupid, right? So the last thing that you want is that. This encourages them to leave a decision-making conversation and go away to think about it. A simple changing of the wording moves this from out of your control to completely in your control. Swap the phrase, do you have any questions, with improved question, with an improved, what questions do you have for me? Now, very similar, but a small adjustment. What questions do you have for me? The minute you assume an outcome, the easiest response for them to give is that they have no questions. Like I said, triggers, psychological triggers also allows you then to understand what moves people will make next, right? What does this really mean for you? It means that they have made a decision and you are perfectly positioned to ask for it. This change of wording typically results in you either gaining the response or in a specific question they need answers to, okay? Either way, you're moving far closer to a decision and you avoid a dreaded, I need some time to think about it response. There are two responses that I've heard a lot of people struggle with over the years that continue to struggle, and it's because they don't understand all of these things that compile into how somebody makes a decision, or the words you're using are actually damaging that whole conversation and making them actually make the decision that you're so upset about. So that was the first simple swap, but I told you there's going to be two. So the next change is, it's so simple, but also so powerful in itself. It's funny that it works. It works with almost everything. When I think it works with, if you communicate it with like spoken word, whether it's, you know, in an article or written, or even text message or chats, right? So it works everywhere. It's the best used when you're looking to gain any additional piece of information from the other person and you want it actually effortlessly. Now, I want you guys to consider this scenario in your mind here where you have met somebody and you would like to have a conversation with them at maybe some other time, like later on. You're busy right now, you want to have a conversation later on. A mistake that many people make is asking, can I have your number? Now, when you ask somebody, can I have those specific words, it creates a permission-based resistance in the other person. And what this does is it makes it extremely hard to get what you hoped for, since a yes or a no response is actually required in this scenario. It can be seen as invasion of privacy. So instead of asking the alternative question, what's the best number to contact you at? I'll say it again. What is the best number to contact you at? Results in people effortlessly giving you the information you requested. Both of these sets of power words demonstrate how changing just a couple of words can make all of the difference in the results that you get from your conversations. And this is why I always tell people, I listen to the words people use, because based off the words they use matched with the tonality, and if I can actually see the individual, I can conform exactly what's going on in the scenario. The next set of power words that I'm going to give you is, you have three options. I use this on every single sale that I've ever done in the fitness space since for the past, 12 plus years. You have three options. People hate to feel manipulated and nearly always want to feel like they have made the final decision. Nobody wants to be sold anything. They want to feel like they bought something. So when somebody needs help deciding, use these words, right? These words basically close down the gap and reduce their choices and make it easier for them to pick. The words, as I see it, you have 3 options. Help other people through the decision-making process and allow you to appear impartial in doing so. Let me repeat that. They allow you to appear impartial in doing so. What does that mean? It means that, hey, you have 3 options, and it basically takes me out of the equation and says, hey, you decide. It's up to you. Now I'm not inside of this situation. Now they're not feeling like I'm pressing something on them. I'm saying you got three choices, right? Now you're simply you're basically presenting them with their options, right? So you now have the opportunity to display in a way that favors your preferred choice. Note, keep in mind, 3, 6, 12-month programs, okay? The rhythm of 3 makes for easy listening, right? For another person. And by leaving your preferred choice to the end, right? One end at the end, you easily build the value of that option along with the choices. So your preferred outcome stands out as the clear favorite. Now, of course, we could play with several different examples of, option-based type selling and where to basically make it to where they're automatically going to choose the one that you already want them to choose. But this one is the most common. It's the easiest one, and it's the one that I've used for years because it's the most effective. So here's one that kind of help you think. Imagine you're looking for someone to join your business, right? And they're on the fence about it. Start by making a statement that starts the scene for a real life scenario. And the statement, it's going to sound kind of like this, right? Like, so you're currently in a job that you kind of hate. You're not enjoying it so much. The hours are long and it's keeping you away from your family. And the money is nowhere near where you would like it to be. We have shown you a business opportunity and you like it, yet you're not sure exactly what to do. As I see it, you have 3 options. Let me add this here. As I see it, you have 3 options. First, you could look for another job, work on your resume, send out applications, go through the interviews, and work through that whole entire process to perhaps maybe find another employer offering a similar pay package and more than likely expecting the same kind of work for the same return. Second, you could do absolutely nothing. Stay exactly where you are right now, except that your current circumstances are as good as it gets, and just suck it up. No, most people actually fall into this space. Or third, you could give this a try, working alongside what you're doing right now, and see how far you go. Of those 3 options, this last part is crucial. What's going to be easier for you? What's going to be easier for you? So obviously, the third option is the easiest option, but it's also my preferred option. Finishing with another set of power words means they have to pick one of those options. What's going to be easier for you means the obvious new job option is off the table. Since staying put was off the table, the only option they have left is the easy one, the one you want them to pick, the one you left till the end and stacked in your favor because you made it the path of least resistance, okay? So to start with, you have 3 options. Finish with what's going to be easier for you. And watch people literally as effortless as possible pick the choice that previously they were basically struggling to figure out. Okay? So start with, you have 3 options. Finish with another power words What's going to be easier for you? The next, oh, right here. And I'm going to end it right here at 10 because I'm breaking this one up because this is a lot of information and I just want to go through I just wanted to give you guys some of these things. The first ones are a lot of the ones that you hear me say on a regular basis. I want you to start actually implementing this stuff and putting them into your vocabulary and having conversations around these things. Because conditioning, just like anything, you need to condition yourself to utilize them in the correct way in order to move the ball forward. So the next set of words are 2 types of people. I've said this a lot, and it's funny because people say it to me in different conversations, and it like sticks out like a sore thumb just because it's such a part of some of the things that I say. So as entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and business owners, we are often tasked with the responsibility of helping people make their minds up, right? And to me, the primary job description of a sales professional is to be a decision master, right? In the lives of their customers and in their prospects. Yet still the job can be even more simplified as described as a professional mind maker upper, okay? You can literally, that's what it all comes down to. Now, there are many people who do a great job of getting people interested in something, yet it is the final moment of helping people to decide that creates the action that drives results. That is the tough part, okay? Note, I know, and I have talked with literally thousands of sales, business professionals, entrepreneur who sound good, they look good, they have a following, they have a big network, they have some success, but they are still stuck financially on a roller coaster because of this exact reason. The final moment of helping people decide. Because every single person on this call, literally right now, with one product or service that you have, can make $117,000 a year with only 5 people buying a month for only $300 for a 12-month agreement. Yes, it's that simple. Now, how many total people is that? I'm doing the math for you. So if you don't know the math, start writing. It is literally only 60 people over the course of an entire year to buy that, right? So do the math. It's talking to only 400 people a year, AKA your audience, your following, your network, your acquaintances, all of the people on your social media, inside of your emails. Only 400 to talk to, okay? And only 50% of them who are actually taking the time to book an appointment or a call with you. And from that point, a very low closing percentage of 30% gets you 60 paying year-long clients. And that is it. The moment you get 60 paying year-long clients, you at $300, you are making $117,000. And that's if you keep it at a pace of 5 clients per month. That is it. 5 clients paying $300 a month for a 12-month agreement. By the end of the year, you will have made $117,000. Numbers don't lie. People do. It's that simple. And this is how people get to that point consistently, by utilizing these words that I'm giving you here today. All right. So help people to choose by removing some of the choices. Clarity is power, right? And creating easy options so that decisions become easier when the choices are polarizing. So a lot of people ask, what is polarizing? Polarizing is by eliminating things and also making it so blatant, right? So I'll give you some examples here so that way you understand. Red or white wine, right? Beach or ski vacation, romantic or action movie, massive debt or debt free. These are all polarizing to people. Like it's like, you know, black or white, like all of these things, it's one or the other, right? So that is what is polarizing to people when you're communicating. All of this becomes simpler because the decisions from the broader alternative note here, which is also why being specific in who you specifically help is crucial, because it makes you the obvious choice over the thousands of others doing the same thing. I will say that again in simpler terms. The reason why we always want you to be specific and have clarity is because that also makes the decision from somebody else way easier. You're eliminating the path of resistance against somebody to make a decision that you're the person. When they see it, it stands out, it's polarizing, I want it. Simple, right? Your goal is to create a statement that presents a choice and then allows the other person to be able to pick. Asking people to decide for themselves who they are with the power of words, two types of people, prompts an instant decision. I'm going to read that again. Your goal is to create a statement that presents a choice and then allow the other person to pick. Asking people to decide for themselves who they are with the power words, two types of people, prompts an instant decision. The second somebody hears there are two types of people, for instance, in this world, the little voice in their head immediately wonders which one of those they are. And they wait with a bated breath to hear the choices. Okay. Now, your role is to deliver them two choices and make one of them stand out as the easy option. Here are some good examples for you guys so that way you understand. There are two types of people in this world: those who leave their personal financial success in the hands of their employers, and those who take full responsibility and build their own futures. There are two types of people in this world: those who judge something before they even tried it, and those who are prepared to try something and base their opinion from their own experience. Both of those are really, that one is really good for the fitness side of the house, by the way. There are two types of people in this world: those who resist change in favor of nostalgia, and those who move with the times and create a better future. You should be able to start to see a pattern in the examples and be able to understand how the options are clearly stacked in favor of the decision that you want them to pick. Something for you all to think about as attending this training right now is that there are two types of people in this world. That those that come to trainings like this and do nothing, and those who put what they've learned to practice and enjoy immediate results. I want to open it up to questions for you guys, Q&A a little bit on here. So that way, 2 minutes. I went through a lot of stuff. This is also recorded, so that way I will have it in the learning sections for everybody a part of the program. So that way you can go through and see these words. And if you want more details, let me know as well. Tiffany, super valuable. Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. Boom. What was the, type in the comments right now your most, what was your biggest takeaway from all of these things? I know I went through 10 specific phrases. Actually, there was 11. So if you're writing this stuff down, there was a hidden one in there that I didn't necessarily outline. So there's technically 11 power words and phrases that you can utilize in almost any scenario that will start to move and get things in a direction of where you want it to be. This is how you start to dominate with influence. You hear the term influence all the time. Influence, 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 influence. Because there are three types, there are three positions, right? Like when you're in sales or when you're in conversations, when you're talking to people, right? Is you have a superior stance, you have a equal stance, or you have an inferior stance. Grant Cardone, Don Locke, Jordan Belford, all of these guys do all of their communication from a superior stance, right? That superior stance is old logic, is old training, right? I do all three, and it has worked phenomenal over the years, right? Another one, just imagine getting the clients to see it so that they buy. I love that. You have three options, absolutely. The three options, absolutely. Simple swaps, two types of people, absolutely. That's huge. Yeah, like guys, I want you guys to understand, if you think hard enough in a conversation that you've had with me, you will see that I've used all of these things in a conversation at some point with me. And the reason why I do that is because our goal is to influence and inspire, right? To create win-wins. The only way you can influence and inspire and create win-wins is not always coming from a dominant superior side, like a lot of the people out there that are doing trainings and different things like that. You have to come from a stance of superior sometimes, inferior to the other, and also maybe at some points in there too as equal. Like you want to touch on all of them, and that's how the conversation should go. And these power words that I have either learned, through experience from other people, like throughout my journey, have been things that stood out to me, right? Especially there's two types of people, because it directly relates to me, right? There's two types of people in this world, or there's two types of people in this world: sales trainers who stick to what they used to do and what worked then and are afraid to change, or people or sales trainers who continuously adapt to create the life that they want and enroll as many clients and so on and so forth, right? So utilizing these things is going to work for you if you can start to apply it into your life right now and in conversations right now. Like, you don't actually have to sell somebody something, but you can start to utilize these things in the conversations you're currently having with people at work, current clients that you already have, right? Like, talk about stuff, implant these things. Now, there was one thing in here that I said everybody has to do and has to be able to understand in order to be extremely successful. And what was that one thing, especially if they work with us in particular? There's something that they have to do and be able to understand in order to be successful and when they work with us. Type it in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. Boom, David. On point. Stories. Here's the thing. Stories allow you to be that person that could come from a superior stance, an equal stance, and an inferior stance. But also, stories allow you to paint pictures, paint visions. And if you can incorporate these types of words inside of those stories and understand that people want to be carried along the journey because it influences and inspires, right? And then when you get them influenced and inspired, it creates a sense of motivation. And we all know that motivation is broken down into two categories: a reason and doing, right? They're inspired and influenced by your story, which gives them a good reason to want to do something because they relate something in that story to their life. And because they're inspired and influenced by this, it creates the motivation, which means in doing. It's like when you were a kid, if you've ever watched a Rocky movie, right? And they're playing the music and you get all fired up and it like makes you like actually like want to do something in that moment. That's what you want to create when you have conversations. That's what you want to create when you tell your stories, when you're doing your lives in the videos and stuff like that, is that type of influence, because the person who is able to influence people will never be alone. in this world, and they will always continuously have success. And if there is one secret that I could say that will have the most impact, that is impacted the most in my life personally, that I think will impact your life to where you will always be successful, it is understanding how to effectively communicate with stories to be able to influence people, to create a motivation where it makes them move in a direction of where you want them to go. That's going to create a win-win scenario. Now, if you can do that effectively, it doesn't matter what you do. You could be selling car washes. You can be selling oil changes. You will always move in people in a direction and continuously have success. So, like I said, this recording will go up in the group. Like I said, I want to hear how this is working for you guys. I want you to start implementing it. I want you to give us examples of where you implemented it in your actual life, in our community. Share with us. We want to hear you guys are doing this stuff and growing in the successes you're having from it, because I love to know how successful you guys are at doing all of this stuff. And it's also called Fast Action Online CEOs for a reason, because when you have an idea, you got to take fast action and implement on it. If you say tomorrow, this doesn't just, that word and that phrase doesn't just happen in this moment. It happens in all the other areas of your life as well. Because if you do it once, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I love you guys. Just keep reaching. And like always, lead from the heart. And I will see you soon. I will have this up inside of the training for all of you guys to log into and see as well. Peace out.
Thanks, Joe.